welcome everyone for our CBA alumni chapter first time ever entrepreneur panel event. So again, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? We have for your enjoyment tonight a Q&A session with a panel of entrepreneurs from a variety of industry. We have received some questions beforehand, so we're going to try to get to those as much or as many as we can. But definitely feel free to use the chat, and then hopefully we'll have time at the end to answer any questions that we have live. But with that, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Justine, over to you.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, Dr. V. So, like Lorena said, this is our first ever entrepreneurship event. So we are really excited, and we hope everyone is as well. My name is Justine. I'm the Director of Online Events and Social Media for Cal Poly Pomona College of Business Alumni Chapter. I do want to introduce our moderator for this event, Dr. Deborah Brazil. Dr. Brazil.
Hi, everybody.
Dr. Brazil's expertise is within entrepreneurship, and she's currently professor at CPP within the MHR department. And Dr. Brazil received both her BS in psychology and her PhD in business concentration in organizational behavior and entrepreneurship from the University of Alabama. So without further ado, Dr. Brazil, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, first, I'm really honored to be here. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself, and then we'll move on to the entrepreneurs who actually quit their day job, right? Unlike me, who just does entrepreneurial ventures and things on the side. So I've spent probably most of my academic career looking at organizations and how to infuse them with creativity, innovation, vision, energy, enthusiasm. And it's called corporate entrepreneurship. And so that was all about large companies becoming more entrepreneurial. So that part has always kind of been in my blood. And everybody thought I was crazy because they said that corporate entrepreneurship stuff is an oxymoron. And I feel vindicated now because there's Elon Musk and SpaceX, and even Zappos has a great creative kind of organizational environment. So what I really get excited about now is the study of creativity and neuroplasticity. And so what I figured out is that organizations don't really change when you change cultures and reward systems and structures, but it takes transformed people to come into the business and on the board and transform the company, right? And that's the fuel for innovation for all of these entrepreneurs here. So that's kind of what I've been into lately. I will say I've been part of one entrepreneurial, I would call it a misadventure. I was on the board of directors for Deep Sea Research, and we founded California's oldest shipwreck. It was a treasure ship, and it was off the coast of California, of course, up near Oregon, and it broke apart over a rock called Jonathan Rock. And I was really young at the time, and all kinds of shenanigans were going on. And I think once I went through that whole odyssey, which went on for probably a decade, I thought, now I can really teach entrepreneurship, right? I mean, I get it. I understand it. And this case actually went to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Scalia saw it, Sandra Day O'Connor. We won. We thought we were going to be fabulously wealthy. We were happy and celebrating. But then you see, I didn't quit my day job. So that's long story short, okay? So I want to turn our attention to the entrepreneurs that did quit their day job. And I know they have inspiring stories and, things that they will say that will just wow you. And so I want to go ahead and ask them to introduce themselves and give a short little bio, and then we'll move on to the Q&A and to the questions. So could we start off, please? Gary Smith, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
Sure, I appreciate that and the introduction. Yeah, like she said, my name is Gary Smith. I studied graphic design and marketing at Cal Poly a long time ago. That's where these gray stripes came from. And I actually unlike a lot of my friends, stayed in that industry. I took an internship over at a creative place where they had me doing a lot of production, jumped from there into Disney, and I was there right after they launched their first website. So I was in the digital space. And then from there, I would go from, Disney to a few startups. And then I ended up at a small agency, a digital agency called Magnet Interactive. And the reason that that's important is because they had clients like Nissan, Infinity, and so forth. And they were partnering with a traditional agency called TBWA Chiat Day. And they're responsible for Apple, Nissan, Infinity, Yo Quiero Taco Bell, all that kind of stuff. I can go back decades talking about the work that they've done and the pop culture that they've created. So when Magnet was taken over, it was a kind of a hostile takeover. Chiat Day pulled me in because I was the creative director of the digital piece. And they wanted to create a digital arm at then the only traditional agency. They had no digital. So I became the interactive creative director working on all of their brands, touching Apple, Nissan, Infinity, and a few others, just making sure that all the concepts and campaigns that they were doing in the real world, billboards, out of home, bus stops, commercials, making sure that those campaigns and those concepts translated into the digital space. And again, this was quite a while ago. And then from there, I transitioned over to a competing agency called McCann, or at the time it was called MRM, McCann Relationship Marketing, I think is what it's called. And I was the creative director in this region for a few years. And over there, I worked on different campaigns for Microsoft, Buick, and some other Fortune 500 companies. And my responsibility there was just, again, to make sure that the concepts and creativity that they were showing in the traditional space was translating into the digital space. And the whole idea is to make sure that people can interact with the brands, whereas traditional advertising is passive. And then, I'm sitting at these agencies, and there is one thing, and it's kind of a cliche. A lot of these agencies are competitive and political. So the more I heard the politics taking over, the more I would hear people backstabbing each other, I decided that I needed to try to create my own agency. And this is where the entrepreneurship comes in. Every time somebody said something political, I would take a toy. I had an office full of toys. I would take one of the toys and I would take it home. And I told myself, by the time all of the toys are gone, I would just leave. So one day the office was empty. I decided to jump, and I had to come up with a name. Now, because everything was political, I came up with a name that I thought was kind of ridiculous, and it was called At Play Creative, like a child at play. Creativity is supposed to be fun. I'm pretty sure most of you would agree. I did that in 2006, and I've been going fairly strong ever since. I've had my ups and downs, which I'll explain later. I've had some successes and some not so successes, and just been doing that ever since. Was that about 3 minutes? Is that good?
That was fantastic, Gary. Thank you. Really, really nice job. Eugene Hakopians, would you please tell us about yourself?
Hi, my name is Eugene Hakopians. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and a co-founder of Andre Technologies. We do contracting with government agencies. JPL, local in Pasadena, is one of our largest contracts, and we have roughly about 120, 130 employees working for us. So we've grown, but my story, to a certain point, I will go back a little bit further just to explain that a failure in entrepreneurship should not be a deterring factor for some of our people, or some of the people here, to just kind of step away. So when I came to this country as an immigrant in 1987, I was, roughly 17, 18 years old. I started working at different places, and the first thing that I did was, new to the country, don't know the language very well, trying to get somewhere. So I started buying and selling cars, and I started getting it bigger and bigger, and we had a dealership, and we were making really good money until the 1991 recession happened. And right after that, it was virtually overnight that we went out of business because everybody
Wow.
stopped selling or buying cars, which is very similar to what happened at the beginning of the pandemic here. Or, if you guys are old enough to remember the 1987 and 91,
Yeah.
2008, 9 recessions, and so on and so forth. Every one of them was kind of different. So when that happened, we closed the business and everything else. And, with the encouragement of family and friends, I started going back to, or went to college. So I started going to college and I took 2 classes. It was Economics 101 and Accounting 101. And at the end of that semester, it was an epiphany for me just by taking those 2 classes because of all that experience that I had. Not that if I had those 2 classes, I would have kept the business, I would have done it better or whatnot. What my understanding was, I wouldn't even gone to that business. I wouldn't have even started that business the way I started it. So that really was the beginning to my thought that I've wasted 3 years and somehow I have to recover that 3 years of my life. So what I did was the following semester, I started taking, 18, 20 units. I went through, I got my bachelor's, and the way even, my career has been coincidences, fortunately or unfortunately. When I started, getting to a point that I had to transfer to a 4-year college, my advisor was saying, okay, you need to pick a major. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So he says, well, tell me one thing that you, I said, you know what? This morning I was at the ATM, I put my card in, I punch in a couple of numbers and I get money out. And that's kind of interesting to me to learn how do you do it. The guy said, do you want the hardware, like the machine or this program behind it? I said, no, the program. Okay, so your major is software engineer or computer science. I said, okay. So I transferred to Cal State Northridge as a computer science, and I continued, my education, got my bachelor's. In the meantime, I started internshipping at JPL back in 1992. So I started there, and going through the process, I started doing some, some technical work because they found I was a computer science major, cheap labor, so they can use me to testing and doing software development and so on. So I started the software development cycle much earlier than even my schooling. So I took most of my work experience to school rather than bringing my school experience to work. So that was kind of the difference. So going forward, I got my bachelor's, I got a full-time job at JPL. I continued for my master's since they were paying for it. So I got my master's in computer science. And then when I came back and I started doing work at JPL, I kind of started getting bored. So one of the things I did was I went back to Glendale College and started teaching. Then I ended up teaching at Woodbury University in Burbank. And then I went to Northridge back to see one of my professors for whatever reason. And he was the chair at the time. And I said, you know what, I'm teaching at Glendale and Woodbury. I wouldn't mind teaching at Northridge. And he said, you want to teach? I said, yeah, what is wrong with that? He says, nothing. So he opened the drawer, threw the schedule in front of me and said, pick your classes. I said, just like that? He said, yes. So I said, I want to teach, introduction to Unix and software development. So I did, I picked those. He went in the back, got the books. He says, you're starting in 2 weeks. I was like, what happened? He says, I said, why are you, so eager to get me to start teaching? He says, I just want you to feel the way we felt when you were in class. And all the questions you were asking, I want you to feel exactly the same way. So, that was the coincidence. Again, I started teaching on the side while I was working at JPL. Fast forward about maybe I taught over there until like 2007, and then work was getting more. We had our second child, so time was getting to be much shorter. So I moved on and I stopped teaching. went back to, getting the work done. And in 2010 or 9, I should say, I went back, my project was ending at JPL, and I went to several people to see if I can find another job. And this is again, another coincidence. I went to one of our folks that was mentoring me at Raytheon, actually, which we had a contract over there as well. And I said, if you hire me as a Raytheon, I can still work my JPL work, and I can do this engineering work, that engineering work. He looked at me, and he's known me for a while by then. He said, you know what? I'm not going to hire you. I said, what do you mean? I'm the best damn engineer you can find. And he's like, you know what? What I would encourage you to start your own business and come back and do consulting. And I said, why would you say that? So I said, I've already failed once at, doing my own business, and I don't want to do it again. I'm an engineer. And he says, well, and I said, your wife is an accountant, a CPA. You're an engineer. I see a lot of companies that are good in technical, very bad in business side. And I see companies that are very good in business, but very bad in technical. He just said, unless you want to divorce her, I would recommend you guys team up and actually start the business. She can run the business and do the bookkeeping and accounting and everything else. And you can run the technical side of it. It took us roughly about 9 months between the conversation between my wife and I, until we said, you know what, it's not going to hurt. Just let's do it. Let's drop the hammer and do it. So that's what we started Andre Technologies, and that's our 4 of our initials: Andrew, Nicole, Rubina, and Eugene. And that's how we came up with the name. So we started the business. I was the only technical guy working in our company, and slowly started, hiring, getting more contracts, hiring more people, until 2017, when we won the contract at JPL. And that was a really big deal for a 10-person company to get a contract that there were 110 people on it. So we had to go through and switch all the 110 people over to us and moving forward. Now, the same person that, we mentored me and, went through suggesting all of that, I didn't see my potential. That's the one thing that the entrepreneurs need to, realize. Sometimes you don't see your own potential. When somebody else says it, you need to kind of listen. So there's 2 aspects to that, in my opinion. Whenever there's a conversation, there's a speaking side and there's a listening side. You can listen to them, but can you hear them, what they're saying? And can you take their suggestion and really analyze and digest it and make it part of your core beliefs and see if you can move it forward? This person who mentored me virtually did the same thing for a lot of small businesses, and nobody listened to him of what he was suggesting. And we are one of the few that we actually really said, okay, let's try this. Let's try something else. Let's try a direction that they're suggesting, see what we can get. And after a few years, what happened was, we became big enough that we are going, he's working for another company. I'm working at Andre. And now there are times that we team up to go after a contract. And at other times we compete against each other, which we have become that size that we can actually do that versus still being a small business and asking for a handout. I know I went a long explanation, but I'm hoping that that explanation helps folks here to understand failure is not a downside of entrepreneurship. And even when somebody suggests something, think about it and see what you can get out of it and how you can make it part of your own, versus thinking, oh, somebody else is telling me to do something. So with that, I'm going to step back and ask you guys to have the next entrepreneur introduce themselves.
Thank you, Eugene.
Really
Terrific.
If we can, for time's sake, try and keep our intros for elevator pitch. I know all of our entrepreneurs know that what an elevator pitch is. So Dr. B, can we introduce the next speaker?
Sure, be happy to. Edgar Pasmino, tell us your story.
Hi, yes, thank you. So my name is Edgar Pasmino. I'm a junior and I go by JP, but this is my company called the Inca Empire. I'm not your conventional entrepreneur. Basically, I started as an entrepreneur without even knowing it. My mom also came to the States as an immigrant, and a lot of people that come from different countries kind of come with that attitude and motivation with wanting to make things happen and survive. And she taught us how to work without really, like, whenever there wasn't work, she taught us how to work when there wasn't really work out there, right? So we learned how to survive basically and make things happen and try to make that money. And because of that, I've learned how to start a business, and little by little started designing the name. The Inca Empire is named after our native ancestors. My mom's from Ecuador, and a lot of the natives there are Incas. And so I named it after my ancestors. And from there, I provide about 3 different services. One of the main ones is DJing, which I do now. I DJ for like the city of Rancho, Fontana, Chaffey College, and so on. But it's been definitely a struggle. It hasn't been easy. It's been a lot of work. So, but little by little, I've been developing it and getting it designed, and here I am now. So yeah, thank you guys very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Edgar. Ace Barrow.
What's
Please.
going on, everybody? Sorry to cut you off there. I'm gonna keep this short too. My name's Ace. I am a founder of NX Agency. My business specializes in multimedia content creation. I've worked with a lot of brands, some of them, a lot of startups. Brands like Nike LA, Foot Locker, Bally's, Rude. Cool little thing, just throw out there. I actually just came back from Italy for the fashion week for Luigi's first designs for Bally. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, that's really what I do, just partner with people. When it comes to digital marketing now, you need a lot of brand assets as far as visuals. So I partner with them, tell them, hey, what message are you trying to convey? Let me help you through visuals. That's it.
Thank you, Ace. Excellent. Ashlyn Chung, our last entrepreneur. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, guys. If my internet cuts out, I'm really sorry. It's been just not working with me today. My name's Ashlyn. I am the owner of Ashlyn Events. So my business is mainly event planning and coordination. I've been doing it for about maybe since 2017. I kind of just bit the bullet after interning at a event location or event planner, and somehow there's some doubt in if I was able to do it, and I just decided, let's just do it. And I feel like everyone's mentality for why we're here is just like, how did you do it? And I feel like you just have to do it. If you want it, just go for it. Life is short, just do it. At the end of the day, we're all here to do what we want to do. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, that was inspiring. So, jump off the cliff, right? Get out of your comfort zone. I love it. Really, really great advice. So thank you, entrepreneurs, for introducing yourselves. I'm impressed. We have a terrific panel this evening. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with the questions. And I will read out the question. And if an entrepreneur wishes to answer, go ahead and do that. And then we'll keep it a little bit organic as others want to add on to that. And then we'll move on and through our series of questions. So the first one is, based on your personal experience, what would you have done differently, if anything? So in other words, some of you have laid out your careers and, some of your failures, but then coming back from it and some of your high and low points. Would you change anything? Would you do anything differently based on what you know now?
I would say don't get discouraged when you hear no. Because I was very discouraged when I was hearing no, but you have to recognize that successful people, you only see the yes portion of it when they actually get, they're successful because somebody said yes to them. But for every yes, probably they had 100 no's coming in. Just don't be discouraged. Just plug in and move forward and try and try and try.
Okay.
I'll add to that.
Hey.
My business partner says this to me a lot: be a stone, meaning do not get attached emotionally with it. As an entrepreneur, you do sell yourself and your business a lot. You're the salesperson, you pitch and all that stuff. So, but also I love making friends with my clients. It makes the job easier and a lot more fun. I think, the chemistry between clients and yourself needs to be really, really good. But that becomes a friendship. So what I would do differently is always establish a business relationship and also the other half, but make sure that it's about business. Because at the end of the day, if they don't have money to pay you, it's not about being friends at that point. It's business. And you cannot take that emotionally. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Anybody else? What would you have done differently? And, sort of dovetailing with that is that, if you could do it all over again, like a little bit of a different perspective to it, and you started from ground zero, no money at all, how would you do it? What are those initial steps?
I like to add on to what Eugene and Ace has mentioned. So definitely, like Eugene said, don't be afraid not to fail, right? Take the risk, go out there, make it happen. Fall in love with what you do. I definitely agree with what Ace said. You gotta love what you do and love the people that you work with, because it does make things a lot better and easier. I love working with all the people that I go work for, because we're on the same page, so less conflict. But when it comes to this question about what would I do differently, to me, I start thinking about reflection, right? When you start reflecting, what would you do different? So some things you gotta do different. Some things you gotta change up. If it's not working, it's not working. You gotta just change it and make things happen. And then some things you just gotta keep the same. Like, for instance, one thing that I would have done different from the beginning that now I know because of school and research. And by the way, I'm a psychology major, not really a business major, but business is something that just came to me, like I said, naturally from the beginning. But one thing that I've learned as a psychology major is to collect data, do research, collect data, do research on your business, on yourself, and on your customers. And then from there, find out what would you do different and learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Ashlyn or Gary, any thoughtful comments on this question?
Sure. What would I do differently if I started from scratch? I would be very careful about the people I choose to do business with. And that has to do with clients, as well as the people that I partner with, the people that I hire, because those people can make or break your business. The other thing I would do is stay focused. When I was younger running this business, I would lose focus and start looking at different things. Fortunately, I got lucky because I built solid relationships with clients, so they kept me afloat. But there are times when I didn't focus on the goal. I didn't focus on the day-to-day of the business, and the business suffered. So those are the two things that I would do differently. I had to learn those lessons the hard way.
Yeah, Ace is applauding you.
Right.
Ashlyn, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Not really, because everyone said
Okay.
what I would have said.
Okay, yeah, no worries, no worries. So second question is, what motivated each of you to choose the type of business that you ventured into? Why did you choose that particular industry or that particular business? You know, in other words, was that something that, you know, you're particularly passionate about, and why is that? How did you discover it?
I can answer that question if it's okay with everyone else.
Absolutely.
My dad used to always say, follow your passion and you'll never go wrong. Or if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So
Right.
when I was a kid, I could draw anything. When I was at Cal Poly, I used to sit in the back of the, don't tell anybody this, but I sit in the back of the class. And I really enjoyed being creative. So that's how I fell into, literally didn't plan, but fell into what I do now. Literally following my passion is basically what keeps me going day to day. It's what pulls me out of bed. It's because I get to be creative.
Yeah. Agreed. Nice. Right. It's that fuel. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Somebody else.
Yeah, I'll answer. It's gonna sound the same, exactly the same. My family's all artistic, also musically artistic in all that sense. So I think if it's just in you, you just do it anyways. So I think for me, I kind of did a cheat instead of trying to go to school and try to learn something to be really good at it. I was just like, I'm really good at this. How do I monetize this? You know, how do I make money out of this? Because this is easy. But let me get this straight though, for anyone that's trying to do something that they're passionate about and make money off of it, work will always be work. So it'll always be grueling because it's work. But at the end of the day, you'll feel fulfilled and you're not empty when you're done. So I think that's the difference with being an entrepreneur, doing what you love, or building the other person's business that doesn't fulfill you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I love that. It's, you know, I love the part about the fulfillment. And, you know, it's true. I mean, work is work, and you can love it and you can wake up and be creative and so on. But there are probably certain aspects that it's still work. But I think you're right on. It's that sense of fulfillment and purpose. Yeah, for sure. Somebody else, what do you think?
Deborah,
Edgar, I know you got the passion.
I think Renita had a comment. She's got her hand up for a little while. I'm
Oh,
sure.
so sorry. Please go.
Let me unmute.
Right.
I'm a Cal Poly accounting graduate in 1994, so I think I'm older than most of the people on this. But I didn't start off as an entrepreneur, but I ended up an entrepreneur within this is my only job / business I've ever had. So I started when I was still in college, and I became the succession plan because, as everybody says, it's hard work, right? You apply yourself. And nowadays people think that success happens overnight. Sometimes it does, but most often it's through 10,000 hours. If you guys have ever read the book Outliers, it's about 10,000 hours to be an elite athlete, to be great at what you do. And probably Gary and Ace and JP and Eugene has done all of those, and Ashlyn, right? It's like 10,000 hours of grueling. Even if it's in your passion, you still have to put it in. So as an entrepreneur, I think some of the things that I would do differently is create a business plan. And you know, Eugene went from 10 employees all the way to 130. That doesn't happen overnight. And you do have to evolve. And nowadays, with the type of individuals that are entering the workforce, it talks a lot, business, the landscape, it's no longer do it my way or the highway, which is how I grew up in the business. It's like, we got to do it the boss's way. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's the beautiful thing about it, is you could do it your own way, right? But even if, as you develop your own business, you're going to end up bringing people along, and you're going to have a heart for business. And the heart for business is the people, and understanding your people and knowing what they're looking for and seeking to understand and bring fulfillment to their life. Because I believe that when you put your hand out and you lift others up, somehow it's going to come back to you. And so being that two things that I would change differently is I would understand what my business plan is and who I can tag along to help me run and keep me accountable to it, right? Because if I'm struggling every day financially, I'm more apt to quit because I can't support my business. And then you have to learn how to delay gratify. Just because you have $10,000 in the bank doesn't mean that's going to support you for the next, 5 years. I think people misunderstand that business is all about delayed gratification. And I believe that you have to have 6 months of expenses in your bank before you can say, oh, I can buy that, right? That's like in life as well. So I would say for those people that want to start their business, have a business plan. See if your mom or your dad, if you're new at it, can hold you accountable to a financial budget, right? Because you might be living at your mom and dad's house because you want to pursue your passion. Keep you accountable to your financials so that you can continue to support that business and not go into debt. I'm not saying debt isn't good, because as long as you know financially that your business plan can pay off that loan, then you won't be as tired at the end of the day and feel fulfilled, as Ace said. Thank you.
That's excellent. Yeah, thank you, Renita. Very good. Great words of wisdom there. Anybody want to add to that? About what was sort of that tipping point, and what was the genesis of that? That entrepreneurial venture. And maybe for some of you, you didn't necessarily follow your passion. At least maybe you didn't initially. And then you were able to follow that at a later point. Anybody have any experiences like that, or anything?
Yeah.
Just anything you want to add?
Yes, Dr. B. What's called yes, I had passion for sure, but that didn't happen till afterwards. Like I was mentioning, my mom was an immigrant, came here, tried to make it happen. She taught us. We were poor, come from a broken home, single parent. My dad wasn't really around, so we had to figure out how to fend for ourselves and make things happen. So at first it was all hunger. I was just hungry for money. Not that money was everything, but being from a broken home, I knew, and a poor family, I knew that we needed money to pay rent, and I wanted to make it easier for my mom. So I just learned how to start working and creating a business. And then from there, little by little, as soon as I started developing myself and creating my identity and going to school, is when I started figuring out that this is what I wanted to do, and now this is what I want to provide as far as service. Because not only it's just a service, but also provide products as well. So it's product and service. And because of you, Dr. B, too, I learned how to be a social serial entrepreneur. So, which was amazing as well, because it's not just being about just an entrepreneur. Just when you figure out it's an entrepreneur, then there's other, there's just other identities to it. So then later on, I just started falling in love with my passion. And because of that, things did become easier. And then I was able to create my own business. I got to a point too, by the way, the tipping point for me was I got tired of working for other people. I realized that I could do the same thing, but just better and show better customer service. I just knew I was able to provide it better. So I just started just doing it on my own and trying to generate my own clientele. And little by little, it started happening. And then from there, just continue. And I still continue to develop myself.
That's great, JP. And I mean, hats off to you for sticking with it and persevering. That's just an amazing journey for you. Anybody else have something to add about the passion? There's always kind of an argument there about, do you follow your passion or do you follow your talent? And I always like to kind of look at the passion, the talent in the marketplace. Can you monetize something? But I really think that, there is research out there that actually says when people do what they love, that they tend to succeed more often than when you just pursue something you're not necessarily all that passionate about. Gary, did you have something you were going to say?
Yeah, like I said before, when I was introducing myself, again, my dad used to just remind me over and over. He said, follow your passion and you'll never go wrong.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would do is just focus to get those, I think Renita said 10,000 hours. I would just focus on one thing, not because I had to, because I really would enjoy it. I used to call it losing time. I would sit down at my desk and start tinkering or playing at Play Creative. I would start playing, and then I would look up and 8 hours would have passed. And lo and behold, that's the thing that people keep paying me for. So I know, Ace, you said work is work, But when people are, I feel guilty because people are giving me money to do things that are fun. I'm like, you're going to pay me for that? Okay, I'll do some more of that. So that's the one thing that I would say in terms of passion. I believe that if somebody's passionate about something, they can be very skilled in it.
That's gold, Gary.
Yeah, so that state of being is called flow, right? Csikszentmihalyi would call that flow, and that's total immersion, almost getting into sort of a hypnotic trance.
Yes.
And unfettered joy and well-being, and that's what we all try to do. You know, that's where that creative sort of essence comes out, and that's the fuel for, you know, your entrepreneurial venture. So thank you. That was excellent. So the next question is just about what happens, you know, when you graduate. I guess the student's about to graduate, and he or she is asking, well, how does this work if you graduate and you really don't have very much experience? And I'm not sure if the person is really talking about an entrepreneur or the particular industry they're going into, but nonetheless, the question is valuable, because what are those first steps when you graduate and you just don't really have very much on your resume, right? What are those first things that you can do?
I mean, one thing I would say, I mean, first of all, for the previous question, I second everybody's comment. I mean, it's exactly what everybody mentioned, hard work and everything else. In regards to this question, you know, when there are a lot of potholes in life that you have to go through. And, you know, I'm not really a big fan of a graduate. There are very few people that I know that they graduated, they became an entrepreneur, and they were able to make something. Although if you can do it, great, you know, go for that. If you want to try it, go for it. But I would say, if you really want to be successful and really understand what it takes to get the business running, is to get a job. It doesn't matter, as low as you can, as an intern, unpaid, whatever, to go through that process and get to that next level. Don't think of, oh, they're not paying me $30 an hour, I'm not going to work for them. Look at the business, look at the place you're going to be working at, and to see if you're going to gain some knowledge out of it. You know, this is one thing that I always tell my kids. I said, you take, you know, the education is very important. Experience is even more critical. I always tell them, you pick me up, throw me in a country with no money, give me 2 years, I'll be back exactly where I am in 2 years. If it's English speaking, give me 3 years if it's not an English speaking country, and I'll be back exactly where I am today. Because even if I go right now, I lose my job, I lose everything. I go become a janitor at McDonald's. Yes, I have to put down my ego and everything else. But believe me, when I speak with the managers and everybody else, the way I speak, the way I express my experience, the way I maybe solve a problem, without no time, I'll become a manager, because no business owner wants to give up a very talented person. So if you're able to go through that process and really think about it as a learning, instead of wasting money, you're actually making money and learning more in the business, then become, I mean, most of the people here, they said that they were working in the, you know, in the industry, and they just, you know, went to work for themselves. And one of the things Gary said, which I think he hit the nail in the head, was the politics. The same thing happened to me. I was enjoying my work. I enjoy my work. The only difference is I just don't put up with the politics anymore. If I don't like somebody, I just don't work with them. If I like somebody, I'll go out of my way to accommodate them. So that's the difference. The politics is the one, and you have to experience it so you appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think the new term for that is culture. The culture. If you create the culture within your business,
exactly,
and the people, right? And so if the person that you hired isn't fitting your culture, because you thought you were hiring for your culture and they didn't turn out that way, you kind of just let them go. But I agree with Eugene. I think Anybody can become an entrepreneur. So there's a question on the chat about what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And, you know, there's serial entrepreneurs where they think of an idea and they start a business while they're also supporting their current business, right? And so that's a serial entrepreneur. They're always starting new businesses. And business owners, like for me, I became a business owner. I didn't start the business I was in. That's, you know, I wasn't an entrepreneur per se where I started the business, but I became a business owner and I just became the succession plan. But both entrepreneurs and business owners need to think about what Eugene said, which is understand the business that you want to go into, know the financial aspect of it, know the marketplace, know what it takes, and learn from somebody that's done it before you. I think that's what's key is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just make it better for yourself. And it's easier, right? It's easier to learn from someone that's done it before us so that we don't go through the same heartache they did and then do it better. And then it propels the velocity of your business is much faster than who did it before you because you learned from their mistakes.
You know, if I can just add on to that, the previous question was, what would you do differently starting out from scratch? What Renita just said is the thing that I would do. When I started my business, I kind of stumbled into it. I just, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I didn't have a business plan. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just grabbed some clients and started doing work and got really lucky. So, you know, I'll second what Renita just said.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, sorry, Ace, but one thing you can think about the entrepreneurs, I think, I want to say probably 60 to 80% is luck. And the other 20% is how you get to there. I mean, it is very crucial that you have to be at the right place at the right time to really succeed in your journey.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna answer this because I mean my business is very young. It's like a baby, right? So it's 2 years old. But as far as answering this question, how do you go about becoming an entrepreneur? Don't overcomplicate it. It's really just entrepreneur is very easy, right? Do something, get paid for it. With no bosses, it's on you, straight on. If I can simplify it, what I would encourage you to do is just try. Just start and try, because so many people, I'm going to say 80% of the people, don't even try. If you do fail, you're going to fail, period. I don't know how to make that encouraging, but failure gives you something to learn from. And I know for me, I'm fall forward, not backwards, is what I always go for. But try, period. Just try, figure it out in that sense. And once you surround yourself with people that are also like-minded, or you start studying off YouTube. I know I'm only speaking on behalf of what I do. A lot of it is from YouTube. And a lot of it is, content creators and these videographers and all that stuff. But it was just trying. And from then on, it's just people saw value in it. And that's how I went about it. And now here I am. I'm not this big successful thing, but I'm very proud of myself. This goes back to fulfilling me and what I like to do and what I'm passionate about. So if you're new, you will be scared, and it is a little frightening, but that's what you have to do. It's about risk on your own, risk on yourself, and take a bet on yourself and invest in yourself as well. It's really it.
For such a baby, Ace is very wise.
I would say trial by fire.
Well, to be honest, you guys kind of intimidating me by your answers. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm in this for this class, to listen to you guys. That's what I'm thinking.
Life is all about learning from each other. I don't think anybody, it's like experience. I have 30 years, but I don't think I'm that smart either, because I'm learning a lot from what I'm hearing here. But I think it's, part of being an entrepreneur also is, and a business owner, is being humble enough to know that you don't know everything, and that there are people out there that can teach you a lot. So Eugene spoke to the fact that he had mentors. He had mentors. He moved I was looking over here for Eugene, but he went to my right. somebody dropped off. So Eugene talked about mentors, right? And I had one of those, and Ace talks about making sure you align yourself and surround yourself with people, because there is a saying, lie down with dogs and get up with fleas. So you are who you associate with.
Yeah.
You are who you associate with. And also, there's a book called As a Man Thinketh. And so what Ace says is true. It's like, if you fall for, those are great positive, self-talk, right? Fall forward and be fulfilled and have joy. All of those things are part of being an entrepreneur, because you have to be, my fun title is head cheerleader. And I think I've always been a cheerleader for myself and then for others, but because you're an entrepreneur and there is a lot of people that will tell you can't do it, you have to cheer yourself on. You have to have positive mental attitude to be able to go through the next obstacle and overcome that, because it is tough. It is tough when you have employees that they're not aligned with you, and you have to play the politics and all those things as you start to grow your business or become an entrepreneur. But I think that's also one key thing is surround yourself, always learn, read the right books about self-development and business minded kind of books as well. Sorry.
No, that was excellent. Yeah. Thank you.
Just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. I know there's so much to say in such little bit of time. It's crazy,
That's okay, JP. Go for it.
But I was gonna say, you know what? I want to emphasize on why wait till you graduate to start start employment. Why don't you start volunteering already ahead of time and networking ahead of time and start figuring it out what you must do to get yourself involved out there in the industry. Like the culture that I come from, we started working at a young age, at 10 years old. So at a young age, we were already out there trying to figure out how to work. I was working in construction, in the field, doing this, doing that. And that's what led me into wanting to learn more and do more. So by the time I did graduate, either high school, college, or the university, I already had that experience no matter what. And now this is something that I also teach or mentor other students, and even my stepkids. They're young, but I let them know that they should start thinking about how to create a company, how to create a brand, so that they could already have that, in their skills, in their resume, basically. And then so when later on they grow up and graduate, then they already have that experience. So I think that's one of the best things to do, is try to find, like, where could you volunteer, or where could you work beforehand, before you graduate.
Internship is a very, very good idea. Don't worry about them paying you, but just internship, find a time that they're, as long as they're flexible with your hours, do an internship. I mean, I was an intern for roughly about 2.5 years before I started doing anything. Volunteer your time with different organizations. Like, I'm part of a National Contracts Management Association in San Gabriel Valley, and that's what Justine we met, and she invited me to this event. And I like to volunteer my time, because one of the things I can tell you, I learned from you guys more than I'm actually dishing out. One of the things that I can say right now, I mean, this is, again, business, conducting business. I see Ace and Gary there, and I was going to ask Justine to actually get us in touch, because I have a couple of things that I need to do, and I think those two would be able to help me. So right here, with us, all three of us volunteering our time, but we actually made a connection because there's a need, and because of their attitude and demeanor and their ability to volunteer and actually be open to teach other people, that would be a good relationship we can create, because of the need that I have, and I have to hire somebody, might as well hire somebody that I've met in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next question, I mean, it's really interesting, because I think Eugene, you and JP both kind of are dancing around this question. And that is, if you could share something with your 20-year-old self that would propel you to become an entrepreneur sooner, what would that be? What would that thing be? What would you tell yourself to
Buy
help
Apple
propel
and
yourself?
Facebook.
Say again, what?
Buy Apple and Facebook.
Oh, wait, no, really. Well, what about Tesla?
Or
I think
Tesla,
we would have
either-
all
yeah.
done that one. I think all of us
Oh,
would
yeah,
have
for real. Yeah. So, I mean, I think JP started that off by saying, look, and, Eugene as well, do something, like get out there and immerse yourself in the industry, get an internship, or, do things that while you're still a student, so that when you graduate, you've already got that experience, like JP said, no matter what, it's already there. But are there any other kind of words of wisdom you would, looking back, at your 20-year-old self, what would you say to yourself about entrepreneurship and starting that business sooner, starting it right now, or starting it right out of undergrad, maybe even?
I'd like to go real quick, if you don't
Sure.
mind. It's, so with me, I started with a lot of doubt. Even though I started growing up in the industry, working and in the workforce, I still had a lot of doubt. I thought I had to be something that I wasn't, as far as working for other people and so on and so on. I never really thought that I was going to have a company. So what I would tell myself would be, don't let self-doubt or other people's doubt stop me from experimenting with ideas, because I could become bigger than even imaginable. Like, I never thought that I was going to make it past 30 years old, and here I am now in my 40s, right? So I'm in my 40s, things have changed. My life has improved so much, right? I got my company. I know 3 different languages, American Sign Language, which is one of the latest. My girlfriend that I have now, she's deaf, so I'm involved in the deaf culture, and now I'm doing things with the deaf community, where it keeps developing. I'm also involved in the cannabis business, as you know, doctor, and that's
Yes,
just
I
another.
do.
That's just another part of my life that now I'm expanding. So I'm taking these risks. I'm reaching out on these branches and taking a leap and trying to figure out what else can I do, how else can I be involved. So now that I'm alive and I'm awake and I'm no longer like depressed, because back then I was depressed, suicidal, getting in trouble, getting locked up. Now that I'm past all that, I tell myself, I would tell myself it's time for business. Now it's time to make things happen. And now what I do is I mind my own business.
Excellent. Good for you. Good for you, JP. Anybody else? Do you have advice for that 20-year-old?
Ace, do you have anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ace.
I feel like Gary.
I knew somebody was going to say that.
Ace is 20. He can't even talk about it. He's 20 years old right now.
That was last year.
That was-
We need to do Ace.
Yeah, I would say.
My goodness.
I was thinking hard on this one. I would say, do not be afraid in leaning into, whatever direction you're falling into. I think it goes back into doubting yourself, because there's so much value in leaning into focus. It's that 10x rule kind of thing, where you don't focus on different things. It's just like focus on one thing, and then if it's done, do it again, do it better and better and better and better. What I ended up doing was learning a ton of things and being mediocre, and then adding on hours on each one, instead of like, let me focus on, let's say, for example, photography, and really nerd out on it, know everything about photography as much as I can and lean into it, because then you start to master it, and then you become valuable to anyone that you attach yourself to with the that asset for them. So I think, leaning into it and not doubting yourself so much, because again, I am not afraid to fail. Luckily, and thank God, I've never seen it as a big failure. It's always just been, a leap forward for me, because then I get to pivot or adapt or change or evolve is what essentially what's happening. But lean into whatever it is as much as possible. And then if it doesn't work, you're still so young, you're 20. If you would take 2-3 years, lean to something and fail, you still have so many years ahead of you to lean into something else. But it's just an added on. But I guarantee you, if you do lean into that one thing or the 2 things that you're into, I don't think you'll even leave it, because that's wholeheartedly being there is so important. So vital for you as an individual, an entrepreneur, just as a person, to really digest everything about this certain thing that you're trying to acquire knowledge of. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense, Ace. And, I always tell my entrepreneurs in my classes, that are blossoming, to fail young and fail fast, because you're going to fail. I mean, we all do, even with my sort of side ventures, absolutely. It was, there were many failures there. But I agree with you, Ace. I'm like, do it when you're young, because you don't have a lot of baggage. You're alone, right? You're not going to drag somebody down with you. And so I think that's really good advice, just to, to dive in and get that experience going.
Is that okay, Gary? Was that cool?
It's fine. That's fine.
I just want to make sure that was sufficient enough.
I was going to say all that anyways, but it's fine.
Yeah, don't be afraid of failure.
Don't be afraid.
I started when I was in, late 30s, early 40s, with 2 kids, and it was way past my young side, because I was very comfortable in what I was doing. And over the years, there was a motto that I kind of stuck to it. And if you have this motto in your head, I think the failures are not going to be as much. And I actually created a license plate for him. And sorry about the language, but it says, shit always happens, only the depth varies.
That's so good. I love it.
So if you really, this was on my car for a long time, and my wife made me take it off because, she didn't like the language. So, I've had it in my office, and actually that's good that I have it, and I always show it to people and entrepreneurs. This is what you have to really think about, that, failure is going to happen. You just have to be ready to deal with it.
Absolutely. So just changing gears a little bit. So the next couple of questions are about scaling your venture. And,
there's
it's
a
kind
question
of
though on the panel.
Oh,
there's a question
sorry.
on the chat from Edgar. What are the ways to get an additional source of income other than your primary source of income coming from your 9-to-5 job? I know that if your source of income is only coming from your job, then you're one step away from being in a personal financial crisis.
So that's about multiple revenue streams, then?
Well,
okay.
I don't know if it's, for a starter, for somebody who's starting to become an entrepreneur, I think that's one of the things that, unfortunately, from my experience, young people don't want to put in. They just want to become an influencer and start making money, hand over fist. And that's what my son, who is 17, or actually going to be 18 in 2 months, included in that whole collection. So, I can say that, unfortunately, you may have to work, 15, 16, 17-hour days every day, including Saturday and Sunday, if you want to get something done. So, one of the things that I was telling a partner of ours, she's young, she's a designer, and, she was complaining about the hours. And I said, you have to recognize you left a 9-to-5 job to come into a 24/7 job.
Yeah, true.
That's what entrepreneurship is.
Good point.
So if you are not cut out to put in the hours, and, if you look at the watch and you want to go home, or you want to go to a party, or you want to go somewhere else to have fun, that's not an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that.
What was that, Gary?
No, you go ahead, Renita.
No, I wanted to hear what you said.
I was going to add on to what Eugene said is, they're 24-hour days. There's times when I would work for, and again, working for someone is a way to gain knowledge to start your own business. I believe you should always start your business on somebody else's dollar. But I used to work at Disney, and we would literally fall asleep at work some people would crawl. This is when we were trying to launch stuff, crawl under our desk to go to sleep so that we can wake up and keep working. So I would go to home usually at about 8 or 9 o'clock, wake up as early as I could to go back to work to learn. I mean, Disney had everything, and I was trying to absorb every single thing that I can learn, and almost all of it has contributed to my business.
Wow.
Renita, to you now.
Oh, thank you. I'm similar. When I first started, learner is in my top 5 strength. And so I would sleep at the office when we would do quarterlies, just because the printer that would run out of paper. And then when the printer stopped humming, I'd get up and put it in. Like, this is all during the weekends. I just did all that. But, you know, sometimes too, we have to, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to think about your priorities, right? What's more important? Is it that party you want to go to? Is that going to generate the lifestyle that you're going to want someday? Oh, maybe if it's like a connection or a network where it's like, you know, giving you the business, sure, go to that party. But if it's not going to build on your business, you may have to think about that. But on this question about multiple income, I'm going to go back to the delayed gratification piece, right? So you have a 9-to-5 job, you want to start a business. The best thing you can do is live below your means, start saving, find a financial advisor that can tell you how to invest that so you can have some passive income while so it's building while you're also working, and you're putting money into the savings. And then you can start cutting back on your 9-to-5 job as you start to develop your business that you're passionate about, because now you've set aside money to, or the seed money you need to start that business. I think delayed gratification and budgeting is key to any business.
Can I just real quick add on to that? Question is, where were you when I was starting out my business? Because I did the exact opposite. I would make some money and ball out. I would go get the car that cost as much as the apartment that I was renting. I would go get a motorcycle. I got to get the big house. And sure enough, what happened is when business dipped for whatever reason, because I took my eye off the ball, I had to give all that stuff up because I didn't have reserves. So it's very important to live below your means, put some money away, save for that rainy day. I did not do that, and I'm just grateful that I'm still standing.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah, I want to add on real quick to this. So yes, like, just to be fair, first of all, my company evolves around partying. So I hear you guys talking about partying and all that, and it's funny because, you know, I love my business, I love what I do, and I'm always partying every weekend. So and just to explain, it wasn't always like that, right? I had to really work. I had to leave, like Gary was saying, I had to leave a 9-to-5 to work, or I wasn't sure if it was Eugene, but either way, I had to leave a 9-to-5 to work 24 hours, basically, to where I'm at now. Now I don't have to do 24 hours anymore because I have built myself up enough to a point where I'm not rich, but I'm not poor either. I'm basically pretty much well established that I'm making enough money where now I get to rest. I'm able to just enjoy a day or two and just kick back and just relax and not stress about work. Sometimes you gotta just take time and just relax, because if not, then if work is going to continue to be 24 hours, then you're never going to sleep, and that could cause a lot on your health. And that's what you're going to always focus. It costs you a lot on your health and also on your family as well. So you really got to learn how to balance that out. And as far as the income part and different revenues, you know, like I said, a lot of this I had to learn before I even started taking these entrepreneur classes. So I had to learn how to make money in different ways. So once you start realizing that if you come up with a service or a product and you start learning different things, then you're able to bring in different kinds of income. And that's what ended up happening with me. I created different services, different products, and then I started bringing in different revenue from different places, just little by little, and started developing on that.
Very good. Thank you. So the next question is about online resources. So there are all kinds of business plan checklists. There are, different kinds of websites and their classes and things. Did any of you engage in these? And was there one or two that was particularly helpful? Or did you rely more on face-to-face contacts? So online resources that helped you make key decisions. with your venture?
There was no online when I was starting my business. Let me date myself.
Okay, that answer is no. Okay.
I gave up more than half of my business to get that experience, to gain that knowledge.
Well, yeah, mine is YouTube, Instagram. There's so many mentors that are not really your mentors, but they give a lot of insights. I feel like culture right now, as far as when it comes to entrepreneurship, just because the way business is done now is a little different. There's a lot of new jobs out there. I mean, social media marketing has never been anything until as of recent. But yes, so I feel like the culture too for these, new gurus when it comes to digital marketing or any of that sense, they just give it out for free because I think they want everyone to be saturated with some knowledge. Because at the end of the day, it still goes back to taking a risk. Still goes back to you applying it to your business or your venture, your upcoming venture and whatnot. So I know for me, when you need to answer some of these questions too, like scaling stuff, I really, paid attention to some people that did what I kind of do, and how they scaled and whatnot, and applied it to myself, and obviously adjust as I go because I'm not at that level. But yeah, I think there's a lot of information out there, especially for the people that know YouTube and Instagram and all that. I would say stay away from TikTok because that's just a distraction. But everything else, if you choose, if you are really, really interested in it, you will find the people that are sharing knowledge, So I know that was for me. So yeah, I think I'm sorry for the people that didn't have internet back then. But this is like, just to add on, this is to have for the young people out there that are trying to do something with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I use TikTok. I love TikTok. I use all social platforms. I don't discriminate against anything. So I'm involved with everything, to be honest. I'm even involved with things that I probably wouldn't have been involved with back then, such as the SBA, the Chamber of Commerce, SCORE. I get involved with as much as possible. Wherever you develop your business is where you should go and start, or wherever you created your business is where you start developing, get involved with the city and try to do work with them and find out what they have to offer you. And it's amazing because recently, and I know this is probably going to add on to one of the other questions about what happens if we get into a crisis such as COVID and all that. My business did go down, and it wasn't considered what's the word that they were using? It wasn't considered. It was an essential business because but because I was legit, had my license, pay my taxes and so on, and thankfully I did, go legit, that they were able to give me funding. I got funded. I ended up getting grants and so on, and it still continues to this very day. And it's a blessing, to me, I think it's definitely a blessing because when you go out there and get online or just even in person, it doesn't even have to be online, but go online, explore, and then go in person and go speak with these people and try to connect and network with everybody.
So Edgar said a key thing for income if you want to be an entrepreneur, which is the SBA, the Small Business Administration. They have those types of resources if you can't fund your own, and the interest rates on those are fairly low. So as long as you're generating income to pay that off, it's always wise to use other people's money to build your business.
Nice. So there's another question about passion. And this student is saying, look, I've got multiple passions. So how do I pick one to start the business? In other words, how can I determine which one will be potentially viable and lucrative? Anybody want to take that? I think this person's just lucky they have multiple passions.
That's called market research. See which passion is going to pay off and do that.
Right.
Or there's a need for it outside.
Yeah, Ace said it best. Which one can you monetize?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So they have to kind of evaluate which one is going to be the one that there's a need. Robots, the movie Robots, see a need, feel a need. That's Disney.
That's right.
If their passion is within there's a need for it, I would go with that passion. If there's both of them have a need, I would pick the one that brings them joy and fulfills them.
Okay, good. Okay, so you can monetize it. There's fulfillment. There's joy. I mean, I think that what I've seen, my experience, but then also talking to other entrepreneurs is that I'm trying to start something. I'll have a few that I'm thinking about, and there's always one that wins the race, right? There's always one that kind of pulls ahead from the others, and that's the one I go after. And it's not that difficult. They're never in a dead heat, except in the very, very beginning. And once you start exploring and doing the research, like JP was talking about, then, they start to come about, and then you can figure it out. And actually, I think that it's probably a great idea to pursue multiple potential, revenue streams, multiple businesses, that sort of thing, because, you can get so attached to one, and it's your everything. It's everything to you. And then if it starts to fail, you just don't want to let go of it, because it's all you got. Yeah. And so you just hang on to it when you really shouldn't. Ace, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, as you were speaking about it, actually, like there's also, you got to think about longevity, because I'm also a musician, but I knew, and I was working for this, I was a creative director for this creative entertainment agency. Yeah. But I just knew I did not look so young anymore. And I'm like, okay, I could sound really good, but I'm like, dude, you're like, well, no, because as far as like in entertainment, you got to look young, and especially like weddings and events. And whatever. And so there was different passions, awesome. The music passion, and then also the whole graphic photo multimedia stuff. And I just knew I had to let go of one and move forward with the other, just because down the road I could be with gray hairs somewhere and I'd still be okay to work. And I can't sing anymore. I couldn't dance anymore. So it was like, I had to choose, so you might be good at both, but it's longevity. So as far as it happens, if I'm 50, can I still make money off of it? So
yeah. But Ace and Gary, I'm not sure if you guys have people that you've cloned, right? If you have a business and you can teach people to do what you do, now you can step back and they can be earning for you, right? You may not earn 100% because you got to share it with them. But now that's where you started the business, right? Is then impart your wisdom upon others. They may end up being entrepreneurs themselves, but at least for the time that they're with you, you can now, is it cloning or replicating, right? You're duplicating your efforts because now you have two people doing something that you've been able to network, build, be the salesperson, but now you have the young 18-year-old as the face of whatever you're doing that you think you look too old.
Well, Ace is only 18, so
it was legitimate singing. So if I could replicate someone that could sing or dance like me, I'd be like, sure. But it wasn't. You could teach them. You could teach them. I mean, yes, there is, but I still wouldn't be the one making the money because I'm not singing or dancing anymore. So I was like, okay. Well, but yes, I agree with you. Delegating that stuff and teaching people, yes, I agree.
All right.
So like with JP, when he talks about, doing DJing and he's having to work 24/7, my head went to, how do I find someone to DJ for me, pay them 40% and I keep 60%, and then they just use my equipment, right?
Yes, girl.
Yeah, that's what
30%. But
yes, there you go.
That's what I do right now, matter of fact, because I've been DJing for a long time and it's been getting a hassle with having to move the equipment, mobilizing here and there, and having to do it on my own. And I started off making just a little bit of money, 200, 300 here and there, and now I make up to about $1,000. And I could make all that money on my own, but it's like the more you start making, the more the jobs start becoming more critical, where they want you to perform better and so on, and you got to be on point, and you can't have slip ups. So now I'm actually not even a DJ, I'm an MC. And then I hired a DJ to come and help me DJ, but I know how to DJ because it's my company. So I know how to DJ, I know how to do my taxes, I know how to do this, that, because I'm an entrepreneur, so I know how to do everything all the way around. But now I'm hiring people to go out there, DJ. I hire photographers to come and take photos. I hire just different people to come and do different work. So I make more money and I share the profit, which makes it even easier and less stress as well. And as far as the question, what's called which one, which business to go first? I have, like I said, different services, and which at one point one was doing better than the other. Time changes too, so sometimes some businesses may do better at one point while the other one won't, and so on. And that's the reason why sometimes it's good to have different kind of businesses or different services and products, so that you could be able to work on those little by little, and then they start developing themselves on their own. And then I also like one thing too, by the way, is, to find out, yes, so which one has a bigger need and the match up with your passion, and then try to test those out and see how that can work, and research, and test is always a big thing.
The thing that I'll say real quick is, I have multiple passions. I can draw, photographer, and I also do branding, brand strategy. As a photographer, it's really hard to make a lot of money, but I like taking pictures. I can draw almost anything, but not a lot of people are paying you, enough to make a living by drawing things. But branding and brand strategy, people are dropping lots and lots and lots of money. And the other thing we were talking about is duplicating yourself or multiplying your efforts. I remember when I started my business, it was me designing everything. It was me putting everything together. It was me trying to do my taxes. And I remember the first time I mentored and groomed a person to work for me, I created a clone. He knew how to do everything I knew how to do. And then I assigned something to him that I used to do. And the experience of sitting somewhere, having coffee with a friend of mine, it dawned on me, I'm like, I'm making money right now, and I'm not doing it right now. It blew my mind. Like, I was like, I can never go back.
Eureka. Yeah.
It was a great experience.
Nice.
Deborah, I'm sorry, Doctor, or
No,
whichever.
go ahead.
That's something that you
Deborah
also
Deb,
mentioned.
I answered it.
That's also
Say again?
something that I was going to say, that's something that you also mentioned in your social entrepreneur class, is being able to develop, like teach others so that you could develop their skills, and then they could go on and be able to work in the industry as well and become entrepreneurs themselves. So I think that's also something that's really great. It's like when you're able to share, when you're able to share and break bread with the community, then you're able to also bring each other up. And I think that's something that Renita said too as well earlier, about bringing each other up and developing that community.
Agreed.
So, which creates also a legacy for yourself, so it creates a legacy for myself, because I'm able to help others at the same time.
That's so good. You guys, we've only got 4 minutes left. I've got one last question. This is an interesting one. So if you had only one book to read for the rest of your life, what would it be? What's that one book that was so influential that maybe you read it for inspiration? There's maybe knowledge and content there. Maybe it brings you joy. I don't know. What is it?
Spider-Man.
I have two. That's his creative side.
I like Batman better, but that's okay. All right. So Renita, what you got?
I have two.
Okay.
Well, sorry. There's a personal one, but the professional one, there's two great business books. And it's called The Road Less Stupid and also The Heart of Business.
Nice.
So those two things, because The Road Less Stupid gives you like, it makes you think about putting it into a license plate. Like here it is I think he calls it a license plate. Oh no, it's in a sticker, like put in a bumper sticker.
Yeah, I get it.
So I think those two books are really good, because it talks about entrepreneurial on that people are the heart of business. And then the other side is lessons learned from CEO, which is The Road Less Stupid.
Nice. Ashlyn, do you have any popular books you love that you just can't live without?
One book I would say is, I kind of didn't finish reading it, but I was in this book club, is the You Are a Badass. I don't know if you guys.
I love it.
I'm very I like to be in groups where like it's very inspirational, and I like to inspire other people to do what their calling is. If you feel like you need to do it, just do it and read books about it, and stop making excuses to not do what you want to do in life, and just do it. I know I said in the beginning, but honestly, my like logo and what I always tell people is, you guys were talking about it, to not be afraid, and you guys will fail, but don't be afraid to fail, like everyone was talking about too, and to just do it. Because as you guys grow, you guys will learn from your mistakes, and you guys will become a better person, a better boss, a better business owner as you grow. So yeah, that's all I have.
Nice. I love it. I'm going to check that one out for sure. Ace, JP, Gary, Eugene, what you got?
Think and
Favorite
Grow
book?
Rich. Think and Grow Rich.
Okay. Yeah. Think and Grow Rich. Yep. Good one.
As far as
That is-
for me, what's called, I don't really have a favorite anything because I love and hate everything as well, the same. So what's called, but to me, like some of the subjects that I think it's really worth like looking into is like self-improvement. I think before you can even really think about doing entrepreneurship, you got to really find out who you are as a person, start developing your identity and figuring out who you are. Your creativity your creativity class has taught me a lot about that too. So, but yeah, you gotta find out a lot about yourself. And then as soon as you find out about yourself, then go out to different cultures and learn about different cultures, because if you're really going to want to go out there and do business and make money, you're going to have to deal with people, and everybody is an individual, is their own person. And you got to find out who these people are and understand them. And there's a lot of people out there too with disabilities, and we got to learn how to be compassionate towards people with disability and so on, because a lot of them could be our clientele. So once we learn about ourselves, we learn about others, and then we continue from there. But and then another thing that I think that it's worth reading is reading all your personal journals. Like read about who you were back then and how you grown. Learn about yourself. I know I mentioned that, like learning about yourself through self-improvement books, but go back into your own studies, into a lot of the stuff that you have written in your journals, and find out about who you were back then and who you are now.
Very good.